Hello everyone and welcome to our 5.0 Lightning Sorcerer overview. Today we're taking a look at, of course, the lowest parsing DPS spec in the game, but that shouldn't really affect your choice of class. Do you enjoy it or not should be the choice of class. That's the first thing you should think of, really. Is it fun? Ask yourself that question. Okay, is it fun? Let's take a look at it. We'll take a look at what it's all about. I'll take a look at the new ability for 5.0 is Convulsing Currents, which, if you saw my previous video on this, shock deals 20% more damage to targets affected by your Crushing Darkness. Now, Crushing Darkness is a dot that lasts 6 seconds. Quite a powerful dot. It's quite a decent dot. I mean, it does decent upfront damage, and it deals more kinetic damage over 6 seconds. It's quite a short duration dot. We've got our shock here. Shock never used to be part of the rotation, but unfortunately it is now. So it's an extra button for us to press. What are the main things of this? The main skill that we are going to use is our Thundering Blast. Okay, it's our top priority. Okay, bear in mind it sends a Thundering Blast wave, a single target that deals damage. Thundering Blast will automatically crit on targets affected by a Affliction, which is our other dot. So Affliction we're going to want to keep up at all times. This is not a dot spec, I should point out, but it does have 2 dots that you're going to want to keep up. Fortunately, our Crushing Darkness refreshes Affliction, and our Lightning Flash also refreshes Affliction as well. So we do get Affliction refreshes quite often, so we never really have to bother with it when we've got the uptime on the boss. Okay, so we've got our Chain Lightning, which is very, very nice. Chain Lightning delivers an arc of lightning. Good for AoE, very good for single target. We never cast it, okay? Its activation time is 2.37 seconds, but there is a proc that makes it instant. Okay, Lightning Strike, Lightning Bolt, grant Lightning Storm, activate. Lightning Storm immediately finishes the cooldown of Chain Lightning, makes your Chain Lightning activate instant, consume 50% less force. We never cast Chain Lightning, okay? We never ever cast this. We've got our Thundering Blast there. We've got our Lightning Flash, which is a instant cast ability, which again lowers the activation time of our next Crushing Darkness by half a second. Again, we always want to keep that buff up. We always want to keep that on cooldown. Your basic filler is going to be Lightning Bolt. Okay, so this operates on a priority system, is what it does. Okay, you've got your Thundering Blast is always your top priority. Your secondary priority is Crushing Darkness. Then it's Lightning Flash, Chain Lightning. Lightning Flash or Chain Lightning, really, whichever one is available. And if nothing is available and Crushing Darkness is on the target, then Shock becomes our next priority. If nothing is available, if these 4 are unavailable, and our Crushing Darkness is not on the target, it's only a 6-second dot, then we hit Lightning Bolt. Okay, we hit Lightning Bolt. Your big cooldowns are Recklessness and Polarity Shift. Polarity Shift is excellent, gives you 20% alacrity and immunity to pushbacks and interrupts for 15 seconds. Recklessness gives you a 60% crit chance for the next direct attacks. Your next 2 direct attacks gives you 2 charges. Okay, so again, quite useful. And of course, we've got our Unlimited Power, which increases Mastery, Endurance, and Presence for your entire operation group, which is your raid cooldown. It's a 5-minute cooldown, similar to other raid cooldowns. So let's take a look at our utilities then. Quite disappointed with these utilities. I was playing WoW, playing Legion for the last few months, and we had so many exciting things. I was playing a Shadow Priest, and we had Surrender to Madness, and everything pales in comparison when you've had Surrender to Madness, because it utterly changes the way you play the spec. Nothing here is mind-blowing, okay? Sith Defiance. Damage reduction by 3%. Why wouldn't you want it? You gotta ask yourself that question. Force Suffusion is worthless, okay? Overload heals. Nah, we're not a healer. Empty Body is useful for raiding as well. All healing received by 5%. Doesn't affect stolen life. We don't have stolen life in this spec. That's Madness spec that has that. But bear in mind, one of your major defensive cooldowns is Unnatural Preservation. So increasing that, which is a heal basically, restores health to you. Cannot be used on others, can only be used on yourself. So 5% buff to that. And bear in mind, we've still got our Dark Heal and our Resurgence. So we can always use them in a pinch, so 5% is nice. Again, for AoE, we want Tempest Mastery. It's quite nice. Okay, increases the damage dealt by a Force Storm by 25%. There's our Force Storm. There it is. Does really nice damage in this. It works well with our Storm Brewing as well, with this spec as well. It increases the critical chance of Force Storm by 15%. And its critical damage bonus by 30%, and you get 25% base damage. So Force Storm is our go-to AoE. Our AoE rotation is fairly simple. It's basically Force Storm and then Chain Lightning when it procs. And if it depends on the amount of targets, and if there's a priority target, then what we do. Whether we want to go into our single target rotation to kill a priority target or not, or just keep cleaving, then we just go back to Force Storm and wait for a Chain Lightning proc once again. Dizzying Force is PvP really. Reduces the target's accuracy by 20% for 8 seconds after Whirlwind. Whirlwinding is kind of pointless in Flashpoints now, because I guarantee you as soon as you use Whirlwind on that target, some idiot will decide to go and attack it, so kind of useless in PvE. Dark Speed. Dark Heal increases the movement speed of the target by 50% for 6 seconds. Yeah, if you want a movement speed, bear in mind you've still got Force Speed. You've got plenty of mobility. I don't really see a huge reason to use this. The two kind of default really for raiding. If you're doing a boss with no ads, then you don't need Tempest Mastery. Empty Body and Sith Defiance. Sith Defiance is the mandatory choice. I mean, again, I don't know why this is even a choice. Bake it into the class is what I would say. That's what I would suggest to them. Because why wouldn't you want 3% damage reduction? Okay, in the Masterful Tier, we have Suppression, which is quite a nice ability. I like it. Again, it's very good for raiding. Activating Cloud Mind grants Suppression, which increases your damage reduction by 25% for 6 seconds. Now, Suppression is your threat drop, okay? Wipes your enemy's thoughts, instantly lowering your threat by a moderate amount. It's only a 45-second cooldown, so it is an extra defensive cooldown. Not that we're really lacking for defensive cooldowns. We do have one of the best in the game, which is Force Barrier, which again gives us immunity. We can't do any damage, though, during Force Barrier, so we're immune for that. And we've also got Static Barrier as well. So having Cloud Mind gives you another defensive cooldown, and why wouldn't you want another defensive cooldown? You've got Corrupted Flesh, useful on fights like Corotini, where there's a lot of periodic damage going out, reduces the dot damage on us by 15%. If you're doing PvP and you're fighting a lot of dot specs, then quite useful. In PvE, again, fights like Corotini has dots out, fights like Nerfa, again, there's a dot that goes out on Nerfa, so if you're taking dot damage, what is the other one? Draxus, Gate Commander Draxus. There's fights with periodic damage going out, then it's useful there. You've got Dark Resilience, reduces the damage taken by your target taken by the target of your extraction by 25% for 6 seconds. It's not hugely useful as a DPS. You have to pull someone out of something. Your extraction is mostly a troll ability, but it can be useful if someone's out of position to just pull them into position, so you can decrease their damage taken. But really, increasing the healing done by Unnatural Preservation by 30% is a reason to take it, I would go with, for that one. Again, Unnatural Preservation is your big one of your defensive cooldowns. It's quite nice, gives you a big heal, and it also stacks well with the Empty Body as well. Gives you 35% on top of that. Conspiring Force is kind of useless for PvE. Affliction targets are slowed by 30% for its duration. It's more of a PvP thing, really, to be honest. Lightning Barrier is useful for soloing, or if you're taking constant damage. Your Static Barrier crackles with electricity, shocking attackers for energy damage when it absorbs damage to you. It does not affect static barriers placed on allies and cannot occur more than once every second. So it is a nice, if you're taking sort of constant damage, again, if you were taking ticking damage, you could take these two and use your static barrier. It's useful if you're soloing, if you're getting hit a lot. I don't find much use of it in raids. I mean, unless you're taking constant damage. You've got Torturous Tactics, which lowers the cooldown of Electrocute by 10 seconds. Target stunned by Electrocute deal 25% less damage when Electrocute wears off. Again, it's a PvP utility. Heroic, I like Immersion. Force Speed grants Immersion, removing all movement impairing effects and granting immunity to them for the duration. Useful if you're doing things like Legacy of the Rakata as a flashpoint. I don't like getting rooted, so I find that quite useful. Useful in fights if you're doing Underlurker hard mode or Veteran mode, whatever the hell it's called. Doing that gives you the movement speed, so it grants you immunity, so getting that extra little movement speed. Shapeless Spirit is a good one as well for raiding. Reduces all damage taken while stunned by 30%, so if there's a scripted stun, then you can take 30% less damage. Additionally, you take 30% less damage from area of effects. So if there's a lot of AoE going out, then having 30% less damage, very significant. Fights like Underlurker, again, those ads on Underlurker, they jump up and down on the spot and just do AoE damage. So 30% less damage there is very nice. And fights with stuns as well. PvP, it's useful as well. You've got Surging Speed, reduces the cooldown of Force Speed by 5 seconds. Force Barrier by 30 seconds, really. Force Slow we don't really use in PvE. Polarity Shift gives you a movement speed increase. It can be useful here. Finishes the active cooldown of Force Speed when Force Barrier ends. So it's more of a PvP utility, but can have some uses in fights where you need to run. We're thinking Master and Blaster, where you need to move around a hell of a lot. Can be useful, the cooldown of Force Speed, and having the Polarity Shift increase your movement speed. Can be handy, although we don't primarily use Polarity Shift as a movement speed increase. We're going to pop it as the 20% Alacrity is worth a hell of a lot. Backlash is more of a PvP thing. Static barriers erupt in a flash of light, blinding up to 8 nearby enemies for 3 seconds. Kind of useless in PvE. Might be useful for doing sort of tactical flashpoints, maybe your story mode uprisings or whatever. If you want to do them and you're taking damage, you can stun things. So it might be useful there, but it's very limited in its use. Haunted Dreams. Your Whirlwind breaks early from damage. The target is stunned, but stunned for 2 seconds. Whirlwind also activates instantly. Again, it's more of a PvP thing, because again, if you're doing pugs, no one's going to bother with your your Whirlwind is kind of useless for doing pugs, because it just acts like a beacon. Like every time you CC something, some other DPS or one of the tanks will be drawn to that enemy that you've CC'd. That's what I find every single time I CC. Electric Bindings is a PvP ability again. Overload binds its targets in electricity, immobilizing them for 5 seconds. Kind of useless. For Legendary, Force Mobility really is mandatory. Thundering Blast is quite a long activation time. You'll see here it's 1.42 seconds. So being able to move and cast Thundering Blast is really nice. Okay, so being able to do that on the move is again a DPS increase. That's the one there. That is the one that we want there. Galvanizing Cleanse. Expunge grants Galvanizing Cleanse, making your next ability with an activation time activate instantly. The effect cannot occur more than once every 30 seconds. And it lasts for 15 seconds. To be honest, it's not really worth it in Lightning. You'll see here, most of your abilities can activate instantly, with the exception of Thundering Blast. But honestly, it's once every 30 seconds. It's not really worth it as a DPS gain overall. The only thing you need to cast, Crushing Darkness, which again you can lower that cast, and Thundering Blast. This can proc, Lightning Bolt can proc to be instant, Shock is instant, Lightning Flash is instant, and Chain Lightning we're only going to ever use when it's instant. So the benefits are fairly limited to this. You know, every 30 seconds, it's not really worth it. It does mean you're adding an extra button into the rotation as well, which I think complicates it. You've got Corrupted Barrier, your Static Barrier, Force Barrier, and Enduring Bastion heal you for 1% of your total health. It's not worth it. The healing scale is up to 4% when the charge is Enduring Bastion. It's not worth it anymore. This used to be quite good if you were doing sort of soloing, but honestly 1% now, it's kind of crappy. It's been nerfed. The preferable one is Unnatural Vigor. Okay, Unnatural Preservation, which is your heal, increases your damage reduction by 15% for 6 seconds. So it gives you an extra defensive cooldown there. Additionally, it reduces the cooldown of Unnatural Preservation by 5 seconds. So you get an extra Unnatural Preservation out of it. And bear in mind, it stacks really well with Dark Resilience and Empty Body. So again, these stack up as well. You get the 15% damage reduction, which is quite nice. It's more valuable than Corrupted Barrier these days. It just is way more valuable because your Static Barrier heals are kind of worthless now. This one is better, and especially when it stacks with the other two abilities. Shifting Silhouette is more of a PvP thing again. Using Phase Walk to return to its marked location. Shifting Silhouette will keep you being leapt, pulled, making you immune to interrupts, ability activation, pushbacks for the next 10 seconds. It's not really worth it. All defenses increased by 30% for the duration of Shifting Silhouette. Mostly a PvP thing again. Anything that you're unlikely to be sort of pulled, leapt to, or anything like that in PvE. So, especially if you're doing like operations or hard mode stuff or anything like that. So you're very unlikely to find any use for that. You've got Enfeebling Strike, which is pretty worthless. It's a melee attack essentially. It replaces your Saber Strike, which I don't even have on the bar. We never need it in Lightning Spec. There's no reason to ever do melee. You're never going to run out of force in Lightning. Okay, there's no reason at all. Strikes a target with your lightsaber. It deals weapon damage and immobilizes it for 3 seconds. Mobilization effect ends. Target is slowed by 50% for 6 seconds. It's a PvP ability, so if someone gets up in your face, not that you can whack them with your saber and then teleport away with your phase walk as well. That's the other thing that you get is phase walk. Again, puts a phase walk down and you can teleport to the location. Pretty useful. I don't know why I've got 2 phase walks here on the bar, to be honest. I have no idea why we have them. Right, so the gearing. Let's cover gearing. Your priority is to get accuracy cap. Now, we're quite close to the accuracy cap. 109.94. I did ditch one of the accuracy pieces because we were like 111%. 110 is the target, so 109.94 is okay. We get away with that. We should be able to get away with that. It's only a 0.08% chance, or 0.06, should we say, percent chance that we will miss. So we could probably be okay with that. 109.9 is okay. You know, it's okay. Anything above 109.9, you're probably going to be okay with. In terms of gear, we have managed to get a set bonus. We got lucky and managed to get two pieces. So we've got the 6-piece set bonus should be your secondary priority. Again, we say priority, but you know, it's pure luck that you get a set bonus item these days. Pure luck that one will drop from a boss, and it's pure luck that you might get one. You might win the roll for it. Whether you get that, whether you get it, and then whether you win the roll for it is another thing. And then of course you've got the command XP system, which is just pure luck. Again, I got both of these. Got 2 of them quite close together actually. I'm up to command rank, I think I'm 32 or something. Or are we command rank? Yeah, well, 33 we're up to. Command rank 33. But I got one at rank 30 and one at rank 32, so I got it pretty close together. I got the boots first, and then I got the what's it called? The chest. There it is. There you go. So in terms of stat priority, really, again, this is it really is again again. You've got very little control over stats unless you're buying gear from the GTN. 40% crit should be the target that we're aiming for again, because our recklessness increases our crit chance by 60, so getting up to 40% gives us 100% crit chance from Recklessness, which is quite nice. Alacrity is not too bad in this spec, but we want sort of 40% crit first before we really look into Alacrity. Again, we got 500 Alacrity and 953 crit, which ain't a huge amount. I still haven't augmented a lot of my gear. A lot of this is 230. I think we got implants and relics are the only 228 things I got. I did get a 230 main hand fairly early on and a 230 off hand fairly early on, so we got a bit lucky there with that. I'm gonna put that into a legacy one and then augment it, in case you're wondering why it's not augmented. But yeah, I put all the gear as legacy gear. Some of it's healer gear, some of it's DPS gear. Obviously the stuff with accuracy is going to be exclusive for DPS, but we do have the 2-piece set bonus at least. Turbulence, Force Serenity, or Thundering Blast or Force Leech, should we say. Thundering Blast in our case. Increases damage dealt by 2% for 15 seconds. It's not too bad. Really the 6-piece is what we're after. The extra charge of Recklessness with 40% crit. That's when we start to see this spec really do the little damage that it can do. So what's the problem with it? Problem is it does run a priority system, okay? Your rotation, generally your opener is going to be Crushing Darkness. Crushing Darkness, get Affliction on the target, make sure you then get a Thundering Blast off. So we're going to do Polarity Shift first, pre-cast, pre-pull. Polarity Shift, we get the pull countdown 5, 4, 3, 2. On 2 we start casting Crushing Darkness because 1.89 seconds. So we want a Crushing Darkness to hit just as the tank pulls. Hopefully the tank pulls on 1. Hopefully they don't wait to 1 and then pull and then we get aggro and die. Get a Crushing Darkness up, get your Affliction up, and then it's Thundering Blast, Lightning Flash, Chain Lightning, which probably will proc, and then it's just filler, Lightning Bolt, and then it's the priority system. So Thundering Blast is always number 1 on the priority list. Number 2 is Crushing Darkness. Bear in mind you want the buff with Lightning Flash up. It will flash whenever we fire Lightning Flash off there. You'll see it flashes there whenever we fire that off. I will take that off there. There you go. So you see whenever you use Lightning Flash that you get the buff on it. The reason why you don't hit Lightning Flash as your opener is because on the pull, when you're counting down to the pull, you can the cast time doesn't actually matter. So you can just hard cast it. It doesn't really matter. Force management is a non-issue. Okay, force management is a non-issue. There's never any reason to use Force Lightning in this spec. That's why we don't have it keybound, in case you're wondering. Weird, I know, because it's called Lightning. You think Force Lightning, that's the iconic ability, but there's never any tangible reason to use Force Lightning at all. Right, so let's go. We want to pop Mental Alacrity. We want to get this off. Crushing Darkness, Affliction, Recklessness, Thundering Blast, Lightning Flash, Chain Lightning, and then we want to go to Lightning Bolt until one of these two comes off cooldown. Thundering Blast, top priority. Crushing Darkness, fire off a Chain Lightning, fire off a shot because we've got nothing else to press, and then go back to this, and then it's just back. Just a case of just keeping everything ticking all the way like that. Crushing Darkness out, fire a shock out, this is off cooldown, fire that out, and then it's just a case of keeping this ticking off nicely. Again, this is about to come off cooldown, and fire that off, fire a Crushing Darkness off. We slightly mistimed that one there. Doesn't really matter if you get one of these wrong, to be honest, as long as you're just getting the rotation in there. That's about Crushing Darkness. We lost a proc there on that. And then shot, because it's all that's available. Fire off a big Thundering Blast. So it just becomes down to like a priority system there. Again, Thundering Blast. You could start casting something before Thundering Blast comes off. I mean, if it means getting the hit out and then hitting the Thundering Blast. Like, if you're in the middle of casting Crushing Darkness when Thundering Blast comes off, that's okay. As long as you're getting something out there. In terms of DPS, it is a decent burst spec, but it struggles sort of with sustained output. I mean, it's not the fact that it lacks sort of oomph, really. It's just you're waiting for this cooldown to come off, really, and Lightning Bolt doesn't really do a huge amount of damage. Lightning Flash is a fairly long cooldown. Chain Lightning, we're just waiting for procs. We're kind of always waiting for polarity shift. I keep saying mental alacrity. That's what the Sage one was. We're kind of waiting for polarity shift to do and recklessness to do big damage, really. That's the problem with it, because we can get Lightning Flash critting. If we can get 3 of them, this obviously gives you the crit bonus with the super crit. Lightning Flash and Chain Lightning, if you get them off together with the crits as well, then it starts to do a reasonable amount of damage, but it's just keeping it sustained is the problem. I mean, over the course of a fight, there are other specs that just overtake it. I mean, Madness ends up overtaking it. Madness does have a longer ramp up than this, but really after we've hit our Thundering Blast, we're kind of middling until we hit another big Thundering Blast, and it is like an 8.5 second cooldown. It is a short cooldown, and it is an auto crit. Bear in mind that your Affliction you never need to press twice, unless you're away from the boss again. I would just keep your eye out on Affliction. Just make sure that it's always on the target, okay? We don't really care about its damage. Like, it does a minuscule amount of damage. I mean, look at the difference that Thundering Blast will hit for. And big auto crit. Obviously, we want more crit than this. 64% crit multiplier is quite pitiful. Crit multipliers are a big thing. Okay, crit multiplier is the big thing that we want, and of course that comes from crit now. There's no surge in the game, but good luck with gearing. I mean, really, if you're getting tons of alacrity, you might switch to Madness. If you're getting tons of crit, you go Lightning. So really, it depends on whatever you get, unless you buy from the GTN. But anyway, that is all for this video. We'll take a look at Corruption and Madness, I guess. But this spec it's okay. But I do have issues with it. I don't like Crushing Darkness. I want to integrate Lightning back into it. I wish they would just, I mean, even if Lightning Flash gave your Lightning the same effect as Crushing Darkness, only it was channeled, I would like that, to be honest. I think that would be kind of cool. Something like that. Same damage, but we're just channeling Lightning instead of pressing Crushing Darkness. Because I don't really... If you look at the fantasy of the spec, everything is Lightning based. And, you know, Force Lightning should be there as well. Even the Sage one, it's called Telekinetics. And, you know, we should have some Telekinetic Throw is what the Sage equivalent of Lightning is. We should have, you know, some interaction with the class. In my opinion, Force Lightning should do that. It does in what's it called? Madness. Does in Madness. Getting confused with the spec names now. But anyway, that is all for this video, so thank you for joining me. We'll see you again soon, and goodbye.